My nightmare mother-in-law got our baby lotion with latex despite the fact he is allergic to it, so I sold her present and used the money for myself. My mother-in-law never liked me, and I'm pretty sure that the main reason for this is because I am black. She has never said this outright of course, but comments like, "I can't trust you people, your kind do steal a lot, your hair is so fuzzy and crazy, why don't you tidy it?" make it very obvious that racism is indeed the driving factor for her hatred towards me. I remember the very first time I met her. She seemed very shocked to see me. She wasn't hostile to me that day, but later on pulled her son out of the room to talk to him in private. Later my husband told me that she told him that she expected me to be different. She never elaborated on it, but I did see my husband seem rather uncomfortable for the rest of the visit. Her racism became more clear as time went on, and the previously mentioned comments started about 6 months into her son and I dating. Her racism became more clear when I became pregnant. She was not happy at all about having a mixed-race grandchild. Her comments about the grandchild were the one that made the most uncomfortable, and it was due to this that we never let her babysit him, and never even let her hold him. She didn't seem to mind however, as she called my son a mule. I'm a very calm person, and her words were only comments however, and up until Christmas Day a few days ago she has never done anything outright violent or dangerous. I actually got used to her comments to me after a while. They were only the empty words of a narrow-minded woman, and my husband defended me every time. Well, Christmas came around and she asked us if she could come over for dinner as she had a present for us and for our baby. I had a present for her too. We had not cut contact with her fully, which now in hindsight was a mistake, but I did genuinely think that eventually she would come around and never in a million years did I perceive her as dangerous. My husband and I discussed it and we told her that she could come over, and the only thing she had to do was be respectful to me and the baby. She agreed. She ended up coming over and we had dinner, we caught up. It was somewhat pleasant. She never made any hostile comments and WWE actually had some good laughs. Her present to me was a bougie watch which I thanked her for, and my present for her was a fancy skin care set. Her present for our 1-year-old baby was some lotions and creams supposed to help with calm sleeping through the nights, as well as rashes and irritations. She said she did her research on the products and knew for a fact it was safe to give to the baby. She ended up leaving the house and after she did, I put our baby to bed and my husband and I had some drinks. We were both astounded at his mom, and we even contemplated opening up the family more to her. She may have been nasty at first, especially towards the mixed race of the baby, but she seemed to be making serious progress. While we were drinking, my baby woke up and started screaming. I went to check on him, and I decided to try out the sleep cream my mother-in-law got for the baby. She had told me it was safe, and being tipsy, I didn't check any of the ingredients as the thought of there being something my baby could not have did not cross my mind. I applied the cream and went back downstairs. A few minutes later my baby was screaming again, but this was a different scream. It was one of him in pain. I went upstairs to see what was going on and I was met with a horrible sight. My baby had a rash and was doing everything he could do scratch himself. I picked him up and held him trying to calm him down, and simultaneously read the bottle of cream. I read as carefully as I could. That's when I saw it. Latex. My baby is allergic to latex and my mother-in-law knew this. We had informed her of this in the past when she bought a product with him with latex, and we had to let her know that as much as we appreciate the gift our baby was allergic to this. I also recalled my mother-in-law saying she had done her research, meaning she deliberately bought him something with latex. Once I realized my baby was having an allergic reaction, I administered antihistamines, as well as an EpiPen to avoid anaphylaxis as recommended by a doctor. I called my husband upstairs and informed him of what had happened. This was thankfully not a severe reaction, and other than my baby not sleeping all night as well as having hives and rashes, he was okay in the end. The next morning we called my mother-in-law, furious with what had happened. She played dumb, and she tried her best to act very confused and apologetic, but she's a bad actor and both my husband and I could tell she was lying. She definitely bought this on purpose. We told her that we will be cutting contact with her, and this was followed by her pleading us not to, telling her we can't punish her over a small mistake. We disregarded her crocodile tears and ended the phone call, then proceeded to block her on everything. I then had the idea of selling the watch she bought me as a way to signal to her that my husband and I never have any intentions of regaining contact with her. The watch ended up being worth almost $2,000, my mother-in-law is very wealthy, this is pennies to her. I sold it for $1,600 considering it was second-hand but without a scratch. My husband and I used the money to go out to a Michelin star restaurant last night. We still have a lot of money left over from the watch, and are thinking of spending it on things such as NBA tickets to our favorite team's game, days out for us, essentials for the baby, spa dates for us, things like that. We're collecting every receipt for this. We also have a photo of the watch listing. We plan to compile all of this once we have used up all the money and send it to my mother-in-law to let her know what we have done with her gift.
Husband's perspective. My nightmare mother-in-law got our baby lotion with latex despite the fact he is allergic to it, so I sold her present and used the money for myself. As my wife stated in her post, my mother-in-law is blatantly racist. My wife is a saint, and to be honest she is the only reason we stayed in contact with my mother for as long as we did. Even when I first introduced my wife to my mother, she made comments. When she pulled me aside to talk to me, she mentioned wanting my wife to be different, and outright expressed her concerns about me dating a black woman. Think of the children, she yelled in her best impersonation of Reverend Lovejoy's wife. I was very thrown off by this. I knew not to be the biggest fan of people of color, but I truly thought that she was willing to look past her prejudice for the sake of her son's happiness. Sadly, I was wrong, it seems. I talked to my wife many times about this, and each time we visited hers or she visited ours, I asked my wife how she felt, if she felt comfortable, so on and so on. My mother would make distasteful comments a lot, but I shut them down each time. I could tell these hurt my wife at the start, but she became acclimated to them over time in a sense. I blame myself for letting this happen to a point where the racism was normalized. I actually begged my wife to go no contact with my mother once, but she insisted, saying she really wanted our future kids to have a good relationship with their grandmother. I told her over and over that my mother would never accept our mixed-race children, but my wife never listened. As my wife stated, when she got pregnant, my mother became a nightmare. Well, a nightmare in the sense that she was very vocal about her grandchild being mixed. I told her to stop many times, but she never listened. She never harmed my wife or the pregnancy in any way physically, but she did harm mentally. My wife almost miscarried due to stress, but thankfully she pulled through. The first few months of the baby's life were hard on us, and my mother did not help in any way, shape or form. Apparently she even called our son a mule at one point as per my wife's post. My wife never told me this, and if she did I would have cut my mother out of my life instantly. However, she did warm up to after a while, and we were all on neutral terms. The comments stopped being as frequent, and she even offered to help with the baby. We denied this as we did not want her around him alone, however, no matter how much progress she was making. Christmas came and my wife convinced me to let her come over. I could never understand why my wife was so forgiving to her. Christmas itself went fine. She gave my wife a watch, she gave me a fancy cologne, and some lotions for the baby. It was nice. I still did not fully trust her, however, and was very weary when my wife suggested opening up our relationship with her. In a sick and twisted turn of fate, my skepticism of my mother's newfound demeanor turned out to be correct. She had indeed tried something. This was the first ever time she had ever gotten violent in any way with our family. She bought our baby lotion with latex, which is something she knew he was allergic to. My wife, being tipsy, applied it to the baby without double checking the label as my mother had confirmed previously she did her research on the product. I partially blame my wife for not checking the ingredients first, but that does not excuse my mother's actions. Thankfully our baby was okay in the end. I had a very long talk with my wife the next morning. I told her this is what happens when he proceeds to turn the other cheek over and over to my mother. My mother is a woman who will take a mile when given an inch, and my wife knows this. I told her I also take responsibility for not putting my foot down sooner, and that we are both at blame for what happened. My wife agreed with me that we have to cut her out of our life. I called my mother and gave her a choice of words, then let her know my wife and I are through with her. As my wife said, she tried to play dumb, but we did not believe her. We ended up cutting contact with her and selling the watch she gave to my wife. We will be using the money to pamper ourselves and buy things for the baby. In a weird way I'm glad this happened. I always knew who my mother was and it was only a matter of time before she tried something with serious consequences, but I'm not sure my wife did. I think this experience showed it to her.